Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. Former President Donald Trump is back in court today as his criminal hush money trial enters its third week. Prosecutors are expected to call more high-profile witnesses, including Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen.
In this area, it's second only to Hurricane Harvey.
A 5-year-old boy is dead after being swept away in floodwaters from a severe storm system that made its way through Texas. More than 400 people had to be rescued from homes, rooftops, and roads engulfed in water. A wide region was swamped, stretching from Houston to rural East Texas. Some areas have recorded up to 23 inches of rain just over the last week. The latest rounds of talks for a possible ceasefire between Israel and Hamas have ended without a deal. And now Israel's army is urging Palestinians to evacuate the border city of Rafah ahead of an expected assault. Israel describing Rafah as the last significant Hamas stronghold, and Israeli leaders have repeatedly said they need to carry out a ground invasion to defeat Hamas. A decade in the making, Boeing's spaceflight program is hoping for a crewed launch tonight of its Starliner. 2 veteran NASA astronauts will be flying the Starliner to a week-long stay at the International Space Station. The launch had previously been delayed because of test flight problems. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. Hope you had a good weekend. We have cool air in parts of the Northwest. Over the weekend, there was snow in Salt Lake City. Meanwhile, we have all this warmth continuing across parts of the South, up into parts of the Mid-Atlantic. And Raleigh, 82 degrees today. Columbus, Ohio, 73. But there is a high risk of severe storms for today in the central part of the country. You can see an area here from Kansas to Oklahoma with that high risk. More on that coming up.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Today is Monday, May 6th. Our top story, former President Donald Trump returns to court today as his criminal hush money trial continues. Over the weekend, Trump slamming the criminal prosecutions against him and accusing the White House of being behind his legal issues. The White House is condemning those comments. Spectrum's national reporter Angie Gonzalez joins us now with more on that. Angie, what exactly did the former president say?
Well, Bree, in referencing Democrats, the former president described the party as, quote, running a Gestapo administration. And he said this while speaking about the multiple criminal prosecutions that he faces, including the hush money trial that's going on in New York City. But this is just the latest example of the former president using the language of Nazi Germany in his campaign rhetoric. Trump said this during a private campaign event at Mar-a-Lago on Saturday. Now, during the remarks, he also talked about his vice presidential contenders, and among them is North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, who defended Trump's comments.
I think Americans understand, a majority of Americans feel like the trial that he's in right now is politically motivated. And if it was anybody else, this trial wouldn't even be happening. So I understand that he feels like that he's being unfairly treated.
Now, Bree, we should mention that while Trump has tried to connect his New York hush money trial to the Biden administration, it is not being prosecuted by the Justice Department, but by local prosecutors. Back to you.
And Angie, how does the White House respond to this?
Yeah, so not only the White House responding to this, but also his re-election campaign. They blasted the reference. A spokesman for Biden's campaign said that Trump is once again making despicable and insulting comments about the Holocaust. And a White House spokesman said instead of echoing the appalling rhetoric of fascists, President Biden is bringing the American people around our shared democratic values and the rule of law. Now, Bree, it is also worth noting that President Biden, as well as House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, are going to be speaking at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's Days of Remembrance ceremony, which is going to be held at the U.S. Capitol here this week. Back to you.
Angie Gonzalez, thank you very much. A Texas child is dead as storms flood the state. The 5-year-old boy died yesterday after being swept away when the car he was traveling in was overtaken by floodwaters. The 2 adults with him were rescued and taken to a hospital. The child's body wasn't found until hours later. State and local officials have carried out hundreds of rescues. Millions of residents remain under flood watches. Some areas have recorded up to 23 inches of rain over the last week. And our meteorologist, Julie Marquez, joins us now. Julie, after all of this flooding, where does this storm system move today?
Good morning. Well, we still have impacts, but only low rain chances in and around the Houston area this morning and then drying out for several days. I want to show you a look at how much rain fell. And here, north of Houston, we had many reports of 15 to 18 inches of rain. And in Trinity County, over 20 inches of rain with a couple of spots, 21 to 23 inches of rain. This is why there's so much flooding happening in and around southeast Texas. This is the last 7 days of rainfall. So a look ahead shows, except for a couple of spotty showers in this part of Texas, the rest of the state will be experiencing some thunderstorms, including right around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But most of the rain the next 2 days is going to be north of there, with a risk of severe weather and some flooding concerns now in the central part of the country, including parts of the plains. Then the systems are going to be moving eastward, so we have areas of rain covering the Midwest and the East Coast. A few areas, though, like the Southwest, will continue to stay dry.
Julie, thank you very much. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claiming the tech giant Meta censored his campaign over the weekend. Facebook and Instagram blocked links to a newly produced 30-minute ad from Friday afternoon until around midday Saturday. It featured actor Woody Harrelson narrating. Meta, which owns both platforms, said the link had been incorrectly flagged as spam and that the error had been corrected within a few hours. The group that paid for the ad said they plan to sue Meta over censorship. After initial signs of progress, the latest round of Gaza ceasefire talks has ended without a deal. The Israeli army now urging Palestinians to evacuate the border city of Rafah ahead of an expected assault. Our Ariel Wessler has the latest from the Middle East.
Marking Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a strong message for world leaders.
No amount of pressure, no decision by any international forum will stop Israel from defending itself.
He pledged if Israel is forced to stand alone, it will. Israel didn't send a delegation to the latest ceasefire talks. Its defense minister claimed Hamas wasn't serious about a deal and warned of a, quote, powerful operation in the very near future in Rafah and other places across all of Gaza. The proposal that Egyptian mediators had put to Hamas included an immediate 6-week ceasefire and would have included some sort of Israeli pullout. In the proposal, Hamas would have released female civilian hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. Meanwhile, Israel has also closed its main crossing point for delivering much-needed humanitarian aid for Gaza after Hamas attacked it. The Israeli military says this video shows projectiles fired by Hamas militants at the crossing point. Hamas says it had been targeting Israeli soldiers in the area. World Food Program Executive Director Cindy McCain told NBC's Meet the Press, from what she's seen, northern Gaza is in full-blown famine, though it wasn't an official declaration.
We can't let this happen. In this day and age, when the world has the ability to feed itself 10 times over, nobody should starve. Nobody should starve, for whatever reason.
Israel says it must target Gaza's southern city of Rafah to strike remaining fighters there, despite warnings from the U.S. and others about the danger to civilians. Ariel Wessler, Spectrum News.
As tensions remain high in the Middle East, Israel orders the local offices of Al Jazeera to close. The move escalates a long-running feud between the broadcaster and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's hardline government. Al Jazeera went off Israel's main satellite and cable providers in the hours after the order. However, its website and multiple online streaming links still operated Sunday. The network has maintained 24-hour coverage of the Israel-Hamas war since the initial attack by Hamas on October 7th. Just ahead on Spectrum News, some tents going down as others go up. Colleges across the country are preparing for graduations amid the ongoing protests. More on that just ahead.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. I want to talk a little bit more detail here to the risk of severe weather in parts of the central United States. And you can see an area highlighted here from Texas up into parts of South Dakota. It also includes Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, and also in Little Rock, Arkansas. But an area right here in Oklahoma and southern Kansas is where we have a level 4 out of 5 risk of severe storms, including tornadoes, very large hail, could be over baseball size hail, and perhaps some wind gusts over 70 miles per hour. Norman, Oklahoma City there, areas up to Kansas City really need to be aware of that risk. It really increases in the afternoon and into tonight. So have multiple ways to get severe weather alerts, including on the Spectrum News app. Watch what's happening. 5, 6 o'clock, we have this line of thunderstorms here, and it's near Lincoln, Nebraska, near Omaha, where they had, of course, those devastating tornadoes. We had all those tornadoes with that severe weather outbreak, and there's another risk and a higher risk of getting more thunderstorms that could produce severe weather today in Oklahoma and in Kansas. Then in parts of Iowa and Missouri, we're going to watch that area of rain and storms cross over and then eventually move toward parts of Illinois and into Indiana by Tuesday afternoon. So today in Oklahoma City, 80 degrees late today and tonight. Watch for that threat of severe storms. For Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, highs in the 80s, lows in the 70s. Again, watch for rain and some thunderstorms. New Orleans stays dry at 85 degrees. Milwaukee and Chicago, 60s today. Rain arrives tomorrow. Des Moines, 75 degrees, but again, a risk of severe storms would increase tonight. Indianapolis, it is rainy and 75 degrees. And Kansas City is 75 with a morning low of 57. And again, we have those chances of rain that will ramp up, so you need to be extra aware of that type of weather that could be severe afternoon to nighttime.
If you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. Trump is back in court today as his criminal hush money trial enters its 3rd week. Prosecutors are expected to call more high-profile witnesses, including Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen. A 5-year-old boy is dead after being swept away in floodwaters from a severe storm system that made its way through Texas. More than 400 people had to be rescued from flooded homes, rooftops, and roads. And Israel's army urging Palestinians to evacuate the border city of Rafah ahead of an expected assault. This says weekend ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas failed. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. Well, this is expected to be a critical week for the future of House Speaker Mike Johnson. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia says she plans to introduce a resolution calling for Johnson's ouster. She's unhappy Johnson pushed through a foreign aid package last month that helps Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, and says Johnson has compromised too much with Democrats. It's unclear how many Republican members will side with her. Many Republicans oppose the push to oust Johnson. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announcing $400 million in federal funding for increased security of houses of worship. The money is part of the nonprofit security grant program. Places like churches, mosques, and synagogues can apply to use the money to hire security personnel or install cameras. The boosted money comes following 3 unfounded threats at New York City synagogues Saturday and an overall rise in threats against the Jewish and Muslim communities, fueled in part by the Israel-Hamas war. Houses of worship will need to apply by May 21st to tap into the first round of funds. As pro-Palestinian protests have swept across college campuses nationwide since mid-April, many graduations were thrown into doubt. And this weekend, the University of Southern California calling in the police to clear out encampments. Spectrum's Teralyn Wagner reports.
As some tents came down, others popped up, a sign of a campus trying to maintain order as commencement celebrations near. USC President Carol Folt said in a statement that she called in the LAPD Sunday to help the university's Department of Public Safety clear the pro-Palestinian encampment that sat in Alumni Park at the heart of campus. The cleanup was swift. The last bit of debris carted away less than 4 hours after the dismantling began. No arrests or major confrontations were reported. History major John Stevens, who's set to graduate this month, had spent some time with the protesters at the encampment and was surprised to wake up to the news.
A lot of the students who were there were in fact asleep, so to conduct that kind of sweep at such an early time in the morning feels very unfair.
This was, of course, the second sweep of the encampment. The first, on April 24th, resulted in 93 arrests. Meanwhile, at UCLA, the campus remains extremely quiet. Last week, counter-protesters supporting Israel attacked the pro-Palestinian encampment, clashes which UCLA Chancellor Gene Block said put the entire Bruins community at risk. So he ordered the area cleared early Thursday, with 209 people arrested as hundreds of officers moved in. Junior Dayan, who didn't want to use his last name, wasn't there, but has a lot of questions.
After everything that happened last week, what's kind of next for the students, for the faculty, for everything like that? Like, that's like mainly just concerned on what and confused on what's next.
Walking around campus, he admitted it was extremely quiet. In fact, on Sunday, there seemed to be more security officers present than students. There was also a lot of finger pointing, with many, including the governor, calling for answers on why things were handled as they were. In a statement, the Federated University Police Officers Association stressed that, quote, when protests erupt on campus, the decisions regarding the response of the UC police rest firmly in the hands of campus leadership. They shoulder the accountability for the outcomes stemming from these decisions, not the UC Police Department. Chancellor Gene Block announced Sunday that the school is creating a new Office of Campus Safety to administer policing and emergency management. Back at USC, Alumni Park has been fenced off and will be used for commencement activities this week. John, the history major, isn't sure what happened here will prove as historic as some previous campus protests, but he hopes it will lead to changes in the future.
I think this is going to look a lot more like a wake-up call for the university to kind of maybe look at their own values and hopefully take a step back.
One lesson, though, seems to have already been learned. With both campuses full of barriers, neither appears to be leaving any room for another encampment to form.
That was our Teralyn Wagner reporting. Coming up on Spectrum News, how one Massachusetts school is cooking up a competition to foster learning and serve up some support for charity.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. This week is Hurricane Preparedness Week, so I want to take some time to talk about the season. It's always best to get ready before it begins on June 1st. One of the things, if you live in an area that's prone to hurricanes, is you need to know if you're in an evacuation zone. Because if you are ordered to evacuate, you need to have a safe place to go. So you want to prepare that ahead of time and have a family plan. If you're not in danger of a storm surge and you're not ordered to evacuate, you might want to stay at your house, but you need enough supplies to last you. Try to have a week's worth of water, food, supplies like batteries, medications, anything you might need to help you out during that time. Also, you want to make sure that you are reading and understanding your insurance coverage, and you're taking some time to document your possessions. You might want to take your cell phone, just take a quick video of every room inside your house, take a quick video outside of your house too. And think about ways that you can improve or strengthen your home before the season begins. Now, as we take a look out west, we're going to go from hurricanes to snow, because yesterday in Salt Lake City, it was snowing, and there are more chances of rain and snow in parts of Utah today and tomorrow. You can see that system moving eastward. Montana, some areas there are going to get rain and snow. There's also going to be very strong winds too. So that's an area that we're going to be watching for those lingering effects of windy weather, but also some snow. You know, it's the month of May, so we can have all kinds of hazards. Certainly going to be watching that. Seattle rain, 55 degrees. San Francisco, 62 and partly sunny. A windy day in Denver. Some of the wind gusts could be over 50 or 60 miles per hour. Las Vegas will be sunny at 80 degrees, and Los Angeles will have some sunshine today. 73 degrees with a morning low of 53. Now, as you look at the amount of rainfall we're going to get, the central part of the country not only being monitored for a risk of severe weather, as I showed you before, but we also have a risk of heavy rain that could lead to flooding in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and into Illinois. Parts of Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky will see more showers and storms. Parts of New England, parts of the Southwest may not have too much rain during the next 2 days, but we'll add on to some of that rain by Tuesday night and into Wednesday for parts of the Northeast. Highs today will be 89 degrees in Jacksonville, 82 in Raleigh. Very warm in this part of the country. Cooler temperatures will continue out west.
A decade in the making, Boeing will make a historic launch of its crewed Starliner spacecraft tonight. Two veteran NASA astronauts, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore, will be test driving the vehicle en route to a week-long stay at the International Space Station. Previously delayed by test flight problems and other costly hurdles, Boeing's Starliner program could be a win for the company as it continues to deal with issues in its commercial airplane division. English actor Bernard Hill, best known for his roles in epics like Lord of the Rings and Titanic, has died. Hill made a name for himself in British TV in the early 80s, starring in a miniseries about 5 unemployed men called Boys from the Black Stuff. In 1997's Titanic, he played Captain Edward Smith, one of the only characters in the film based on a real person, alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Hill later joined Lord of the Rings for the franchise's final 2 films. His family announced he passed away yesterday. He was 79 years old. The competition is heating up at a Massachusetts vocational school as a group of students look to put their culinary capabilities to the test. Our Devin Bates stopped by the school's kitchen where 2 teams were putting together some unique dishes.
Amanda Seidler is a senior in Bay Path's Culinary Arts program, and she's no stranger to competing against the pros. At last year's Fork It Over competition, she led a team of fellow students in creating savory sautéed chicken and sweet coconut rice. This year, she's back with something on the sweeter side, graham cracker crepe with chocolate mousse and toasted marshmallow glaze.
I definitely learned that time management is really important, and to make something that's easily, that you can just have it together when you get there, so you're not scrambling trying to prep stuff together. And this, it will travel a lot better, and it will ultimately, in my opinion, probably taste the best. It's in my comfort zone, and I know what I'm doing with this.
The Fork It Over competition requires teams to use Girl Scout cookies in their recipe, and Amanda's team carefully scraped off the filling of an entire box of s'mores cookies. Bay Path's other team, meanwhile, was hard at work making coconut shrimp and spicy peanut chicken skewers, using Tagalong and Samoa cookies to bring it all together.
I'm excited to be able to compete, put myself into a less comfortable situation, but I love Samoa cookies. They're my favorite cookies, so I decided that I wanted to base our meal off of that. I just learned how to devein shrimp when we started this project, so I'm learning along the way.
And learning along the way is part of the experience for these students. Joseph Mancini isn't even in Bay Path's culinary program, but he joined the after-school club because of his family's fondness for cooking, and honing his own skills sounded like fun.
My gram taught me how to bake when I was young, and I've loved cooking ever since, so when I found out there was a culinary club specifically for that, I figured I couldn't miss it. I definitely think it will be a challenge, but I am definitely looking forward to the experience as well. Seeing all the different chefs make their different things, and just seeing how we as a school compare to those high-level restaurants will be a very remarkable experience overall.
And we are whipping up our Spectrum News in 90 right after the short break. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I
I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.